A boy named Juan, born in a general hospital in the red side of Manchester, England, to a Zimbabwean father and mother. Since all he could remember, Juan always was by his mother's side and occasionally spent time with his father. Despite suffering from severe eczema and asthma, Juan lived his life like any other child would: eat, sleep, school, united, united, and repeat. For 7 years of Juan's young life, nothing seemed wrong. Everything was easy. He was a child, after all. Nothing could go wrong until he was swiped off his feet, shoved in a suitcase, and hot dropped to who knows where, leaving his father behind. One would find himself in a place that was always hot, hot in summer, cold in winter. Well, the winter was exclusive to his home, though. Outside it was still hot. Every morning, the sound of the same damn birds would wake him up from his slumber. He found people who spoke many languages, including the only language he could speak. He even came to find out his mom could speak a few of the native languages too, yet still spoke to him in the language he was familiar with. If he wanted to try and learn any other language, people around him couldn't bear constantly hearing him say, "I don't understand what you're saying," or "How do you say it again?" So learning was always a short endeavor for one. And at that time, he didn't need to learn either. You see, one went to a school that spoke English, friends that spoke to him in English, a mother that spoke to him in only English, so there was no need to adapt to learn, as the language always spoken around him, he already knew. One made lots of friends at home and at school, yet stuck out due to the way he spoke. He would say free instead of the number three, I fought in place of I thought, brang instead of brought, and when referring to it an eraser, he would call it a rubber. Despite his friends occasionally poking fun at the way he spoke, these issues were harmless for as long as one would stay young, under the protection of his mother. Now, years go by, and little one has now grown into big one, not in size, but in age. 22 years old, 15 years in the sunny side. One has lived the majority of his life here, went through all his schooling years in the country he was kidnapped to. Funny, right? Primary school, high school, university, graduation, now unemployment. This is his home. This is his home. Yes. No. Maybe. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being from everywhere. Kind of means being from nowhere. I refer to one in third person, but when I look in the mirror, I see the exact same character. The young man influenced by multiple facets, but really can't claim one. You see, my dad is Zimbabwean, but grew up in the UK. My mom is Zimbabwean too, but raised here in South Africa. So before I even existed, my parents were already carrying two versions of the same displacement: Zimbabwean identity shaped by two completely different countries. Then I got added to the mix before I could even talk. But that doesn't matter at all. Your mom's Zimbabwean, your dad's Zimbabwean, so that makes you Zimbabwean. Problem solved, change the video, Fortnite victory royale. Though now, it's not that simple, though, is it? Well, for me, of course. Questions like these only really started appearing in high school, when I was actually interacting with the real world. When people asked me where I was from, it was unusually hard for them to believe when I said I was from the UK. Now, granted, I was almost 10 years into SA by then, so the stereotypical accent people associate with English people wasn't so blatant anymore. And well, also, you know, people wouldn't believe I was from where I said I was from, so they would infer from my name, my skin, my appearance, because people in high school did say I had a certain appearance, that I'm Zimbabwean. Am I from Zimbabwe? No. Have you been to Zimbabwe? No. Can you speak Zimbabwean? No. So are you Zimbabwean? No. I don't know. This is what I've been trying to untangle, and I keep landing on three layers because this isn't one identity crisis, it's a multi-layered, stacked dilemma. The identity I inherited before I had my own. This is a title I possess yet don't express, you know? My mom was already caught between cultures before I was born: Zimbabwean father, South African mother, South African upbringing. I think I absorbed some of that unresolvedness just by being raised by her. I didn't just inherit a nationality, I think I inherited a question. Well, that's what I assumed. But the woman that raised me proudly expresses her Zimbabwean side, her Ndebele side, triumphantly, speaking multiple languages, interchanging between them like Thanos and the Infinity Stones. The country I was born in isn't the country I remember. I was born in the UK, but I have almost no vivid memory of it as home. At this point, it's a country I'm from on paper, but barely know in practice. Zimbabwe, meanwhile, is a country I just inherited by blood. My Zimbabwean cousins who were raised in SA still know their roots, speak the language, visit the homeland. Those are things to be envious of, you know? And they speak to me in English right away. So, two of my three countries are more concepts than experience. Only South Africa is the one I actually lived. And even that came with an asterisk because I arrived at 7 years old. Already different. Belonging by default isn't the same as belonging by choice. South Africa is home mostly because it's where I've been the longest, not necessarily because it's where I feel most myself. That's a strange thing to sit with. Loving knowing a place mostly through duration rather than through some deep sense of fit. Because now when people ask me where I'm from, I just say South Africa. So now more questions and statements arise.
Hey, how can you only speak English? How can you be South African when you only speak your one language? What's your nationality? Foreigner, foreigner, foreigner.
And underneath all of it is the real fear I think this video is pointing me to. If I'm not fully British, not really Zimbabwean, and only South African by default, who the hell am I actually? Culture is supposed to hand you this answer. Mine ended me three answers instead. Three half answers to be exact. So now what do I do with three countries and one identity? A man once told me I cannot be a South African and only know one language, especially only English on top of that. So now I have to ask myself, am I willing to live the rest of my life in a country where I don't know how to speak to others? No Zulu, no Sotho, no Xhosa, not even Afrikaans. Yeah, don't even ask me how much I got for Afrikaans in school. Days where I'm sitting in a taxi from school looking perplexed when someone spoke to me in Zulu, trying my best to understand them and just replying with a nod of my head. Meanwhile, the person is asking for my name. Living in a beautiful multi-tribal country where the value of a language, a culture that roots you to your belonging, your people, your home, that is something worth more than gold. Yet I have no way of relishing in such opulence because I'm a jack of all trades, or rather, a jack of none. Ish, yeah, ne? Not fully English, not really Zimbabwean in practice, South African by default, yeah. Maybe by choice too. Still figuring it out, but maybe I'm not the only one. So let me ask you what everyone's asked me. Where are you actually from? And before you answer, is that where you're from or just where you've been the longest? Drop it in the comments. I'll be reading everyone, blah, 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 blah. But hey, time to open Duolingo, I guess.